Hi, and welcome once again to Ivy English. I'm Karen.
And I'm Chris Gorski.
Today is January 19th, and we're going to talk about something cold again. Early in the month, we talked about dry ice, which is really, really dangerously cold. But we're going to talk about something else that's cold today.
Yeah, we're going to talk about ice. We're going to talk about snow and what we could do with that snow in the winter. Of course, the all-time classic winter activity of making a snowman.
Our title is The Snowy Story of the Snowman. Not necessarily a snowman. It could be a snow woman, or could be maybe binary, non-binary.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny you mentioned this, that when we were talking or when we were preparing for this, mentally, I kept thinking, should we say snowman? Shouldn't we say snow person? It's become a little more automatic. When I was a child, this thing was clearly taking place. Mailman was becoming mail carrier. Fireman was becoming firefighter. And today it's almost instinctual for me to say, does man have to be there? Does it really have to be there?
At first, I thought it was kind of silly, and in grammar as well. So everybody has to do his own work. We did that. We defaulted to the male just out of habit because male is the default. They started changing it to, well, you can say his or her, but then they started saying, let's just say their. But in a lot of situations, it's supposed to be singular. So have the student put their book away. And it's just a singular student. But we now accept the word their because we tried a lot of other invented words and nobody will accept them. There is already existing in any language. It's very hard to invent a new function word. If it is a function word like a pronoun or an article or a preposition, you can't easily invent one. So we have to take an existing word. And the only word we had that was non-gender specific was there. So we are now treating there as a singular in many situations, even though a lot of people don't like it.
That's true, but I should also add that there as a singular, meaning his or her, has existed in the language for hundreds of years.
That's
right.
It
kind of died away. His and her became fashionable, although I never personally liked his or her.
Too wordy.
I think so. And there, sadly, I think has become politicized. I think it's the easiest and best and historically accurate way we can do this.
And I don't care what you say, it's happening. We're doing it now. You can protest all you want. Okay, so we're going to talk about building snow persons. Let's go into our article. Do you want to build a snowman? When this question comes up, we know it's an invitation for wintry fun. People have been creating charming characters out of snow, like Frosty the Snowman, for as long as anyone can recall. However, there is more to the history of snowmen than you might have imagined.
Snowmen might be relatively simple structures these days, but in the European Middle Ages, they were often prized forms of art. Few people had the means to acquire art supplies, but a big snowfall brought ample free material with which to express one's creativity. Building snowmen became a beloved winter pastime, drawing people to wander through the town and admire these temporary works of chilly art. What makes this era even more remarkable is that snowmen were not just a product of common folk, they were the canvas for renowned artists as well. Among them was the 19-year-old Michelangelo, whose artistic expertise extended beyond sculpting marble. In the winter of 1494, the ruler of Florence, Italy, commissioned him to craft a snowman within the courtyard of his mansion.
Yet, the history of snowmen goes beyond the realm of artistry. In the harsh grip of the Winter of Death in 1511, Brussels, Belgium, endured 6 weeks of numbing isolation and suffering. To combat the bitter cold and lift spirits, the city came together in an amazing display of creativity, a snowman festival. Citizens constructed 110 snow sculptures that dotted the city, turning it into a winter wonderland. These snowmen weren't just frozen figures. They were beacons of hope and artistic expression that brought warmth to the hearts of the people, uniting them in the face of adversity. The festival transformed a dreadful winter into a celebration of resilience and unity.
Beyond their frosty exteriors, snowmen symbolize the enduring spirit of human ingenuity and our ability to find wonder even in the chilliest of moments. Next time you find yourself in the snow, see what kind of unique snowman you can come up with.
This makes me think of all kinds of things. One is I was a student in Taiwan in the 70s, and at that time, actually, there was no tourism, outgoing tourism.
Right.
You could welcome tourists coming to Taiwan, and there weren't as many tourists then as now. But you were not allowed to go out for purely for tourism. Okay, it was still during the period of martial law. You could go out for business and for study. So that was okay. And the people I talked to, I tell them about my life in Minnesota. They said they were just so jealous. They would love to go play in the snow and go to Minnesota. I go, no, you would not. And they say, no, I really wish I could. It's just like when people tell me, oh, I wish I had curly hair. I go, no, you don't want curly hair.
Yeah.
It's sort of, if you've experienced it yourself, you know that there are just too many drawbacks.
Or it's a thing where you can enjoy it for 2 weeks and then leave, knowing the reality of a long, harsh winter and what it means for your spring and what it means for your summer. There are a lot of rolling drawbacks to having a snowy winter. They just keep going. Your spring's going to be cold. The water's going to be cold. Your summer has to be shorter by definition.
Yeah.
It's a tricky thing to live in those kind of environments. So I think today does a good job of explaining there are ways to still have fun, even in these honestly miserable conditions.
That's right. And we discussed this in another program I remember about people who actually go winter camping. You can go camping in the winter. Of course, there's ice skating, there's skiing. There's a lot of things that you can do. And Canada is famous for hockey. So there are things you can do. But a long winter is not fun, I will tell you that. Let's go back to the beginning, the snowy story of the snowman. So here's some background on the snowman. And I think every winter, everywhere you go where there's snow, kids will build a snowman. We also built snow forts.
Yeah.
And that was fun, I have to say.
Yeah, I agree. I lived at the end of a dead-end street growing up. So the city plows would clear the streets, and they have to put the snow somewhere. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, in the suburbs, this means some mall parking lot, and they create a literal mountain in the parking lot.
Yeah.
However, in the city, there aren't large parking lots anywhere, and so they would often push them against whatever the end of a dead-end street.
Or the boulevard on the side.
That's right. A lot of snow was kept at the end of my dead-end street. There's only one way out, and we would climb into that, and we would riddle it with tunnels and holes. That's right, because the snow's so packed and so hard. It was great for constructing. Forts were what we loved to make the most.
Honestly, it was really fun. So there is something good. I mean, not worth having a winter for, but it was still fun. Okay, our first sentence. Do you want to build a snowman? When this question comes up, we know it's an invitation for wintry fun. Yeah, building a snowman is fun. I think the most fun part for me was starting with a little snowball and rolling it, and then seeing the snow being picked up by the little snowball and getting bigger and bigger. So that's why we have the verb to snowball. Oh, this is snowballing into a major problem.
So the first line in our paragraph, of course, is a reference to the movie Frozen. Do you want to build a snowman? Oh, boy. I wasn't in the United States when the movie Frozen was popular, but when I did visit family, they did have small girls, and boy, did we listen to that Frozen soundtrack over and over and over again. Yes, I will say the benefit of Let It Go is that I no longer have like middle school students saying, let it to go. Because when they do it, I sing the song and it's instantly fixed. I don't have that problem anymore. And it's because of the song.
Music can really fix a lot of language problems. You should do it more often. So I didn't even recognize the allusion to Frozen because I didn't see the whole movie. But yeah, thanks for pointing that out. So if someone is asking if you want to build a snowman, that means, we're going to go out and have fun in the snow, at least get some advantage out of the season. People have been creating charming characters out of snow, like Frosty the Snowman, for as long as anyone can recall. At least as long as I can recall.
Okay, so I want to ask you this question here. Snowmen obviously have cultural definitions. So when we think of a snowman, mentally we have this kind of stereotypical image. What does it look like to you?
The first thing I think of is Frosty the Snowman with the 3 balls.
3 balls, like a top hat, carrot
nose,
coal eye.
Or stones. We use stones.
Stones, the button-down shirt where you have it in their belly. I wonder, in other cultures before Frosty the Snowman, before modern technology, what was that stereotype in their mind? Across culture, across time, in places that had snow, that they would play in snow, what did a snowman look like? Was it always 3 balls? Was it always 2? You know what I mean?
That would be worth looking into.
I wish we could find that information.
Because our female snowman was not 3 balls, I can tell you. We kind of built her up from the bottom up.
Curvy snow lady.
Curvy snow woman.
All right.
However, there is more to the history of snowmen than you might have imagined. This doesn't give us a lot of information. It just tells us that we're going to talk about history now.
Okay, let's jump into our second long paragraph here. Snowmen might be relatively simple structures these days, but in the European Middle Ages, they were often prized forms of art. Boy, that's a statement.
It is a statement, but on the other hand, I wasn't surprised because if you've got snow, you're going to be building stuff with snow because if conditions are right, snow is sticky, and if it's sticky, you can make things out of it. You can sculpt it.
That's right. And in the winter, most people in the European Middle Ages were farmers. During the winter, there's not much farming going on. And so you had your side job, but there was more free time in the winter for these people. And so they were bored. There's no cell phone, obviously. They're going to go outside and play. Let's continue to our next sentence. Few people had the means to acquire art supplies, but a big snowfall brought ample free material with which to express one's creativity.
I think we forget about poverty a lot of the times. You think if you want something, well, just go buy it, just go get it. They may not have the money to get it. They may live in a place where there's no store that sells that kind of thing.
That's right. We have some good words in here. Acquire just means to get. So we get art supplies, we acquire them. And ample means a lot of. So now there's a lot of free material and we can be creative with it.
It means plenty. There's more than enough.
Let's continue. Building snowmen became a beloved winter pastime, drawing people to wander through town and admire these temporary works of chilly art.
Like I said, it didn't surprise me a lot because we still do it now. And I figured if, we humans can think of doing it now, they probably thought of it then too.
Be careful of the word pastime. It only has 1 T. I sometimes see this word with 2 T's. That's not correct. And let's continue. What makes this era even more remarkable is that snowmen were not just a product of common folk. They were the canvas for renowned artists as well.
You know what I think of when I read this paragraph? I think of Harbin.
Okay.
This very northern province in China. Yeah. Every year they have ice building.
Okay.
They build these wonderful structures like castles and houses and everything out of ice. And the first thing I think of is Harbin.
Do they build them on water themselves or do they build them on land?
They build it on land, I think, mostly. I don't know. I don't know the details. I just know that every season they will usually show some of these wonderful sculptures.
You must have spent time out on frozen lakes and where they build forts. It's incredible how strong ice can be. Like you have all these people and ice castles on the lake. This was something we did every year in New York.
It's funny because we have over 13,000 lakes in Minnesota, as I remember. It's called the land of 10,000 lakes. It's more than that. And we pretty much never skated on lakes because of the potential danger.
Really?
A lot of people went ice fishing. You'd drill a hole, you cut a circle out of the ice and go ice fishing, and I didn't fish. We always went to a playground, which was a pit, and it was flooded. They would take a hose and flood it with water. That's where I skated because I always heard about the dangers of skating on a lake.
There are people that create backyard ice rinks, and that's incredible. But come spring, your yard is like a mud pit.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. Okay, let's go on to our next sentence here. Among them was the 19-year-old Michelangelo, whose artistic expertise extended beyond sculpting marble.
Now that was news to me. I call him Michelangelo, but Michelangelo is closer to the Italian. I didn't know that.
So anytime you see a name ending in EL, like Michael, that's actually just, it means angel. So any names with that, Michelangelo, his name literally has the word angel in it too. But in English, oftentimes that ending is chopped off and you'll just see the EL. That means angel. Michelangelo at 19 years old was what was he, like 3 years away from creating, was it like a La Pieta, that incredible statue where Mary's holding? He's like 3 years away from creating this incredible Renaissance masterpiece. And his patron's like, yo, go build me a snowman. According to the New York Times, by the way, he made a statue. He created a sculpture that apparently was a dry run of his masterpiece, David.
Oh.
I have never seen this cited, and I studied a lot of art history in college, and I had never heard this. It was the New York Times. I don't know. There was no drawing. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Here we go. Let's continue. In the winter of 1494, the ruler of Florence, Italy, commissioned him to craft a snowman within the courtyard of his mansion.
So that was a big deal.
Florence, Italy does not get a lot of snow. They are close to the Alps, but they don't get a lot of snow. It was an unusual and heavy snowfall in Florence, and so they put him to work.
Okay, our next paragraph. Yet the history of snowmen goes beyond the realm of artistry. So I wonder where they're going with this now, because we're talking basically about works of art, even some very simple ones. In the harsh grip of the winter of death in 1511, Brussels, Belgium endured 6 weeks of numbing isolation and suffering. I can identify with that.
So the winter of death was just a particularly long, cold, hard winter. It was compounded because there were a lot of heavy rains in the spring, which flooded fields, killed plants. There wasn't a lot of food. So come winter, their food reserves were quite low. And now you have these especially cold, terrible winters. It was a snowball effect, to use Karen's term, and it just killed a lot of people. It was just a really bad winter.
Sounds miserable. To combat the bitter cold and lift spirits, the city came together in an amazing display of creativity, a snowman festival. Now, that actually is something that makes sense to me. I can easily imagine because in my hometown of St. Paul, Minnesota, we have a winter carnival. So that's the image that it brings up for me.
Now notice Karen said to combat with stress on the second syllable. When it's a verb, we will say to combat. The noun is combat, with the stress on the first syllable.
Okay, so what was this festival like? Like I said, I know the winter festival in Minnesota in St. Paul, the Winter Carnival. I wonder what they did back in Europe, in Brussels, Belgium. Citizens constructed 110 snow sculptures that dotted the city, turning it into a winter wonderland.
So when we construct something, we build it, and a snow sculpture, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a snowman. They probably built a bunch of different things because this is long before that Frosty the Snowman stereotype, archetype, it was created. When we say something is dotted across a city, that means we have a number of items scattered out over an area. They're not concentrated in one place.
These snowmen weren't just frozen figures. They were beacons of hope and artistic expression that brought warmth to the hearts of the people, uniting them in the face of adversity. That sounds a little exaggerated, but when you're feeling really down and bad and isolated, if there's something fun to do, you can quickly forget a lot of your problems.
Also, a secret to staying warm in cold environments is to move. Some of my students, they often just feel cold very easily. And I told them, well, number one, you probably should be wearing more clothes. They often wear like really thin clothes.
Yeah.
I tell them, like, do some exercise. When we take our 5-minute break for them to go to the bathroom, do some jumping jacks, do push-ups. I'll do push-ups with them. I will do them with you. And I promise you do 20 push-ups with me. You will feel hot. And this is the secret to staying warm in the cold. Start moving.
And don't wear flip-flops. A lot of people do.
That's true.
The festival transformed a dreadful winter into a celebration of resilience and unity. Resilience is a great word because that means that even though bad things happen to you, you're able to bounce back and keep trying.
You can endure hardship. Hardship is one word. Just to very quickly mention this. So we were talking earlier about what the archetype snowman looks like. 3 balls, a top hat, stone, carrot nose, etc., etc. One of my favorite ways the idea of snowman has been turned on its head was through the iconic comic strip, Calvin and Hobbes. Calvin was a 6-year-old boy, and one of his favorite things to do in winter were just to make bizarre snow creations.
Like really mean-looking ones.
Mean-looking or ghoulish or just bizarre. He went out to bother his neighbors on purpose. And I love the idea that he would challenge this wholesome, idyllic role that snowmen played in our popular culture. This crazy, naughty little 6-year-old boy.
Yeah, which in the end was kind of boring after a while.
Right.
So he made it more interesting.
All right, let's continue to our final paragraph. Beyond their frosty exteriors, snowmen symbolize the enduring spirit of human ingenuity and our ability to find wonder even in the chilliest of moments.
Okay, I'll buy that. It goes for all the winter sports.
Yes.
You know, I got to give you credit, fellow humans, for making winter into something not as miserable.
That's true. I agree with this. The next time you find yourself in the snow, see what kind of unique snowman you can come up with.
You may have a chance. So go to a cold place and try it out. Let's go to our questions number 1. Which of the following aspects about snowmen are discussed in the passage? And you can pick more than one answer.
A. Tips to construct a long-lasting snowman.
Not mentioned. B. Tools that can be used to build snowmen. Not mentioned.
C. Historical events involving snowmen.
And that is one correct answer. And, for example, they talked about Michelangelo.
And the Winter of Death. Letter D. Famous snowmen throughout history.
Not really.
Well, Frosty was mentioned, but I don't know.
Yeah. E. Their artistic significance in history. Yeah, they did talk about that. That's one of the correct answers. So we've got C and E.
Letter F, the cultural symbolism of snowmen is something I alluded to, but I said I wish we had more information on that topic.
It wasn't really mentioned in the articles, so C and E are the 2 correct answers. Number 2.
Please select the most suitable word from the passage to fill in the blank in the following sentences and make any necessary grammatical changes.
On April 8th, 1492, Lorenzo de' Medici, the ruler of Florence, passed away, so Michelangelo departed from the protection of the Medici court. 2 years later, he received a
commission
from Piero de' Medici, Lorenzo's heir, to carve a snow figure, leading to his return to the Medici court. And that's kind of fun. Nice information there.
Number 3, please fill in the blanks with the information contained in the passage.
Okay, our title or header here is Winter of Death. The year is 1511. The location is Brussels, Belgium. The background is a harsh winter that lasted blank. How long did it last?
It lasted 6 weeks.
And the event was the city organized a festival in which people created over 100
snow sculptures.
And that is it for today. Stay warm and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Take care.